I mean, he said, well, undoubtedly there's a physical danger, but I'm telling you, if he starts to really win, man, I tell you, they could really try something on him physical. Do you ever worry about that, Lou?
Well, sure I do, but I think that we do need to pray for him, and you know, he's got good security, and but absolutely we should pray for his victory as well as his well-being and his continued good health. And by the way, I'd love to see that bicycle race he talked about, having a bicycle race with his other candidates, because of course he's an athlete and he could beat them all, Romney and Santorum and Gingrich of course, but the rest of them too.
Well, we have to just realize, the reason I raised that, the type of arena that Ron Paul has stepped into. You know, we asked him to do this, we demanded him to do this, and then people say, well, his suit's too big, or I wish he was younger, or he should have said this. Folks, you're not in the arena. Ron Paul is running a race that I couldn't run as a young man. Okay, so you haven't been there. He's in the arena. He's doing an incredible job. And, you know, if he doesn't end up winning, folks, I don't want to hear a bunch of whining. Okay, we've had incredible victories. Don't let yourself ever tell yourself that we're not winning when we are.
Well, you know, also there have been times in history when there have been revolutionary moments when young people are galvanized by a wise elder, by a mentor, and we see this kind of connection between Ron Paul and young people. This is revolutionary, and I think the Ron Paul movement is unstoppable, ultimately unstoppable. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of politics, but intellectually, and in terms of a social movement, this is the future. So
that's right.
Absolutely, we need to back him, contribute to him, to tell our friends about him, read. Actually, the best thing you can do for Ron Paul and for yourself.
And don't feel like we're defeated if he doesn't win, because, again, look at him getting 100, 200% more support 4 years later. The idea is growing. That's what is so dynamic, and that's why I've got sources inside Bilderberg. Since 2006, they've been scared of Ron Paul, scared of the youth, scared of the movement, scared of the challenge to their two-party dictatorship. Let's go to Matt in Minnesota. You're on the air with Lou Rockwell. Go ahead.
Hey, Lou, I'm a over-the-road truck driver, and I've been noticed they got that transportation bill. They want to put more freight on the railways, and Jones was talking about the FEMA camps, and everything's going to be on the trains located near the FEMA camps and all that. And then I just wanted to see what the outcome on that would be if the... Well, let
me raise this to Lou. Lou, what do you make of it right out of Atlas Shrugged, where Obama shuts down the oil pipeline out of Canada, and Bloomberg reported so that his buddy, Warren Buffett, could make billions of dollars out of shipping the oil to the West Coast to ships to China? I mean, that's right out of Atlas Shrugged.
No, it's true. And it's typical, right? I mean, anytime when I had the privilege of working for Ron in Washington, one of the things that struck me, and I'd known this intellectually before, but it hit me in the face to be there on Capitol Hill. Every time the government does anything, somebody's making a lot of money out of it. Everything they do, no matter what they claim they're helping the poor or, you know, preventing terrorism or whatever, people are making vast dough out of it. That's why there's a government, so people can rip the rest of us off. And so, yeah, this is typical. It's not just began with Obama, of course, but yeah, he's enriching his pal and his railroads by closing down the pipeline. That's right. So
unbelievable.
Buffett stands to make many, many billions of dollars by that decision.
I mean, this is sabotage of our economy. It's incredible. And the company that spent hundreds of millions of dollars building it, it was more than hundreds of millions. I think the number I saw was almost $1 billion. They're just out of luck finishing it. I mean, this is terrorism. This is economic terrorism, and we let these crooks sit there and do it. Lauren in Texas, you're on the air with Lou Rockwell, LouRockwell.com. Lauren.
Hey, Lou. Hey, Alex.
Hey, go ahead.
Oh, it's such an honor to be talking to both of you. I'm so excited. And I can't believe by some kind of divine intervention, I happen to be on the air with Mr. Rockwell. So
you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Rockwell, I sent an email to you day before yesterday. It was the night of the caucuses. I was watching the three states come in. And in total disbelief, I've watched all the debates and all the caucuses and everything. I'm a grunt on the ground. I'm on the front lines. I'm there fighting the war with you guys. And by analogies, Mr. Jones, you are the General Patton going after the neo-Nazi, whatever you want to call it, the fascist. We need a new word for this that we're in. We're making history every minute of every day. I'm always on the verge of tears. I'm always on the verge of tearing the ground out from underneath me and bringing my house down around me.
Well, stop right there. It's this type of energy. You're responding to evil the way you should. Lou, that's a great point. When the history books are written, regardless, this is going to be recognized as a great tyranny. I mean, this is a great evil. They've launched all these illegal wars, killing people. They've butchered our Bill of Rights. I mean, we're fighting a real tyranny.
We are fighting a tyranny, and I think people are finally becoming, like this gentleman, energized. They're becoming knowledgeable. The Ron Paul movement is extremely unusual, again, I think unique in the fact that his followers are readers. I mean, they read books, they learn, they teach themselves. They don't just buy what they hear from the mainstream media. In fact, they know it's full of lies, and they don't count on it. They have alternative sources of information, and they're mobilized. I would say Ron Paul's already won. For the long term, I don't know what's going to happen at Tampa. I don't know what's going to happen in November. But for the long term, and I happen to think this is far more important than elections. For the long term, the intellectual movement that he started among young people, all the young people he's energized and educated, that is where the future is. That's why we're going to win. And
yeah, that's why the establishment is scared to death. That right there tells you we're winning.
Yeah, they are. They're terrified, and they're frightened. I mean, we see article after article about this, and I think it's exactly true about how scared they are. And they're right to be scared because, of course, everything they do is based on a lie, and everything they do is based on theft, and everything they do is based on tricking people. So when Ron Paul comes along and says, you know, the federal emperor's got no clothes, everybody opens their eyes and say, hey, wait a minute, that's right. So he's already changed so many millions of hearts and minds, not only in this country, but all around the world. And this is the movement that's going to save America. This and allied movements is what's going to overturn the tyranny. This is why I'm optimistic, despite admittedly, all the horrendous things that are going on.
You're right. Lauren, thank you so much for that call. Gary, Ron, Scott, Dave, I'll get to all of you. You won't get to talk to Lou Rockwell. Lou, know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you for really giving us Veritas. You're absolutely right. Historically, common sense in my gut, we have already won. We are winning. Resistance is victory. God bless you, Lou. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Alex.
All right, there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 3, straight ahead.
Alex Jones.
The longer that America stays asleep, the worse it's going to be. Now, Gary Franchi is popping in. He's being demonized along with myself. They're supporting Ron Paul. They're trying to tie it into 9/11 truth like that's something bad. But they got to dig that article out. He's coming up in a minute. I want to go to some more of your calls here in a second. Chris, the producer's like, aren't you going to cover this? And yes, I need to. Because it just illustrates everything. I see these state court rulings, like in California, where they actually said 2 years ago, the state is the guardian and parents have no rights. They just signed a law last year. They're going to give your kids shots and morning after pills. Small children, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Morning after pills that kill people. You know, the fact that government is going to let these be in vending machines now. And folks, this is such a hardcore poison that you take it when you're pregnant, it will kill the baby. And then you've got to go through a miscarriage. And they tell some young girl, this is out of Austin, Texas. And the teacher's facing felony for giving student morning after pill. Yeah, you're not a doctor. Yeah, the little girl's got to get a signed card to go to the zoo or the planetarium with the school bus, but you are going to make the decision. But see, in California, and now the feds are trying to say, yeah, give the little kids morning after pills. The state, even though your child doesn't have consent, informed consent, just like you can't give a 12-year-old liquor and say, well, they wanted it. Or perverts can't have sex with a 10-year-old and say, well, they wanted it. They're not adults. They can't make that decision. That's called rape, you pieces of trash. Like, I'm just going to cover this right now. Teacher facing felony for giving student morning after pill, police say. A high school basketball coach is facing a felony charge for giving a morning after pill to a student who was worried that she was pregnant, according to an arrest affidavit released today. Tracy Lee Steinberg, what an idiot. You think those are your kids? I hope you go to prison for the rest of your life. Has been charged with delivery of a dangerous drug following an investigation into the incident last month at LBJ High School in Northeast Austin. the affidavit said. Steinberg, who was also a math teacher at LBJ, gave the pill to a 16-year-old student who was crying in her class January 26th. She went to Planned Parenthood and got it. Those filthy eugenicists. She had unprotected sex with her boyfriend, the affidavit said. Parents might have wanted to know about that. And, hey, have the kid. Everything's okay. You know how many great people are 16 and have a kid? It's a blessing. But you scum act like it's a horrible curse. You filthy maggot. Excuse me. Continuing here, the student did not have a prescription for the medication, which is required for females younger than 17. The student and her boyfriend then gave Steinberg money for the medication, the affidavit said. You know, I want to know why she could go to Planned Parenthood at 16 and have that happen. They take 12-year-olds, 9-year-olds, I've seen some cases in Europe, and go and get them, third trimester abortions. The state is trying to take our children over. And maybe this basketball person's just a moron. Maybe she doesn't need life in prison. I just get angry about dead babies. I guess killing a baby's not a big deal. I guess it's a good thing in America now. I'm the extremist. I want to apologize. I'm being sarcastic. But you see that dichotomy in Texas where she's being arrested and indicted and should be. But then in other states, they're like, yeah, we're going to give morning after pills to 10-year-olds. God help us. And this is a 16-year-old, ladies and gentlemen. 16 years old. And the parents don't even get to try to influence their daughter not to kill the baby because some teacher made the decision and thought it was really cute to run off to Planned Parenthood and get the pill. Planned Parenthood are Nazis. They created the Nazis. But because they're liberal and trendy, all these idiots here in town have fundraisers for them. It's just a big money-making scumbag operation. The government claims they take your kid if you spank them, even though it's not against the law. But meanwhile, they're trying to shove Prozac and Ritalin down your kids and try to chop them up when they're babies. Chop them up, but don't spank them. Okay, we are back here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be going to Gary Franchi here in just a moment. There's a big article demonizing him at MSNBC and Ron Paul and myself. Oh, my gosh, the guy behind the super PAC that's run $500,000 worth of ads for Ron Paul that have been very effective, he's a 9/11 truther. And then they try to imply he's crazy. And then they say he went on Alex Jones's show. It's even worse. These guys say Al-Qaeda works for the U.S. government. L.A. Times, New York Times, NBC. Here's NBC News today. Israel teams with terror group to kill Iran's nuclear scientist. U.S. official tells NBC News. That terror group, Al-Qaeda. They admit it. 4 Al-Qaeda groups. Well, 4 groups attacking Iran, 3 of them are Al-Qaeda. One of them's Kurdish. L.A. Times, Al-Qaeda being funded by U.S. NATO. Al-Qaeda flag flies over Libya. They're using Al-Qaeda against the Syrians. I mean, I know I keep marveling, but it's like you scum saying Al-Qaeda works for the New World Order or works for the U.S. Not the U.S., the bankers. And we're like, well, here's all the proof. I mean, the heads of the embassy say they're ordered to let Mohammed Atta in the country. The underwear bombers, U.S. government's putting on the plane. Amar al-Awlaki hanging out the Pentagon. Adam Gadon. I mean, it's a fact. You heard Lew Rockwell on, Ron Paul's former chief of staff. He knew the whole history. He goes, yeah, our government created Al-Qaeda and runs them right now. And he goes, I don't speak for Ron Paul because they know the public's not ready for the truth yet. Criminal mega banks, not the U.S. government, run Al-Qaeda. The criminal mega banks run criminal elements of the government, hiding their crimes through national security. We're going to go to Gary in a moment. Let yourself ever tell yourself that we're not winning when we are.
Well, you know, also there have been times in history when there have been revolutionary moments when young people are galvanized by a wise elder, by a mentor, and we see this kind of connection between Ron Paul and young people. This is revolutionary, and I think the Ron Paul movement is unstoppable, ultimately unstoppable. I don't know what's going to happen in terms of politics, but intellectually, in terms of a social movement, this is Torm and Gingrich, of course, but the rest of them too.
Well, we have to just realize, the reason I raised that the type of arena that Ron Paul has stepped into. You know, we asked him to do this, we demanded him to do this, and then people say, well, his suit's too big, or I wish he was younger, or he should have said this. Folks, you're not in the arena. Ron Paul is running a race that I couldn't run as a young man. Okay, so you haven't been there. He's in the arena. He's doing an incredible job. And, you know, if he doesn't end up winning, folks, I don't want to hear a bunch of whining. Okay, we've had incredible victories. Don't at Minnesota, you're on the air with Lou Rockwell. Go ahead.
Hey, Lou, I'm a over-the-road truck driver, and I've been noticed they got that transportation bill. They want to put more freight on the railways, and Jones was talking about the FEMA camps, and everything's going to be on the trains located near the FEMA camps and all that. And then I just wanted to see what the outcome on that would be. Well,
let me raise this to Lou. Lou, what do you make of it right out of Atlas Shrugged, where Obama shuts down the oil pipeline out of Canada, and Bloomberg reported so that his
the future. So
that's right.
Absolutely, we need to back him, contribute to him, to tell our friends about him, read. Actually, the best thing you can do for Ron Paul and for yourself.
And don't feel like we're defeated if he doesn't win, because, again, look at him getting 100, 200% more support 4 years later. The idea is growing. That's what is so dynamic. And that's why I've got sources inside Bilderberg. Since 2006, they've been scared of Ron Paul, scared of the youth, scared of the movement, scared of the challenge to their two-party dictatorship. Let's go to Matt. He said, well, undoubtedly there's a physical danger, but I'm telling you, if he starts to really win, man, I tell you, they could really try something on him physical. Do you ever worry about that, Lou?
Well, sure I do, but I think that we do need to pray for him, and you know, he's got good security, and but absolutely we should pray for his victory as well as his well-being and his continued good health. And by the way, I'd love to see that bicycle race he talked about, having a bicycle race with his other candidates, because of course he's an athlete and he could beat them all, Romney and